Welcome everybody to Sustainable Celebrations. So Giki's 2024 edition of Sustainable Celebrations. We've run a couple of these over the last couple of years, and they've always been really popular. So welcome to anyone joining us for the first time, and if you're joining us for another round, then hopefully you will find some new information in here. It's really popular because at this time of year it can be really hard to be sustainable. So whether you've just finished celebrating Diwali, whether you're just about to celebrate Thanksgiving, or whether you're thinking about Christmas or New Year celebrations, it is a tough time to be sustainable. So we thought we would give you a useful breakdown and some top tips and some checklists that you can use throughout the year when you are celebrating. We're also going to look to answer some of those most commonly asked questions as well. So things that we'll cover over the next 30 minutes, all around our sustainable outfits this year, when we are giving and wrapping presents. One of the biggest questions that we get asked around, should we get a real or a fake tree? Which one's better for the planet? And something that is visible at every celebration throughout the year, which is food as well. So we're going to cover all those. You're joined today by me, Helen Chambers, and we've got Emily as well joining us. So if you need anything, Emily will be in the chat, and I will be the one talking to you mainly throughout the session. So as I said, it can often be a really hard time when we're celebrating. Really hard time of year to be sustainable. So it really helps to keep us on track to ask, what is motivating us, and as well as cutting carbon, which is what we're all trying to do when we are reducing our impact on the planet. There's lots of other benefits that we can think about as well. So saving money, for example, when we are buying things secondhand. Protecting nature when we do things like recycle our wrapping paper or buy mince pies without any palm oil in, and when we choose active travel, so when we're getting out and about at the festive season as well, choosing active travel can really help, obviously, to cut down emissions, but it's all good for our health as well. And the great thing about taking action now is that as soon as you decide to take that action, then it has an immediate positive impact on the planet and often your wallet. So, for example, if you choose to cut back on food waste this season as well. So just some ideas there of things that can help to keep us motivated. So let's start with our first area, which is all about our outfits this year. So thinking about the extra parties and events and the fact that we just see people a lot more at this time of year might mean that we wanted to buy a new outfit. So whether it's a new Christmas jumper, matching family pajamas, or a new Christmas Eve outfit, it's always useful to understand what the impact of that is. And the clothing and footwear industry is huge. So it's estimated to be around 5% of all greenhouse gas emissions that come from clothing and footwear industry, with some people estimating that it's even higher. Fashion affects nature in a broad range of ways. So it's a heavy user of water, often in regions where there's water scarcity. It's also a major polluter, so it's dyes and chemicals to treat textiles. The clothing industry also uses a lot of energy, which is frequently derived from fossil fuels like coal. It's got a lot of waste as well, so it's estimated that more than half of fast fashion produced is disposed of in under a year. And across the industry, only 13% of the total material input is in some way recycled after the clothing use. And this has all been supercharged by fast fashion and us buying a lot more. So the Ellen MacArthur Foundation estimates that the clothing industry has approximately doubled in the last 15 years. So it's huge. And this just shows the impact of just one of our party outfits. So if we needed a new outfit, we estimate it would be around 15 kilograms of carbon, which is the equivalent of driving either 103 miles in an electric vehicle or maybe watching 20 days of television. It also needs around 5,000 litres of water to produce it, which is enough for 2 months worth of showers for one person. A Christmas jumper is similar, just a bit under around 12 kilograms of carbon, and it needs about 4,000 litres of water to make as well. So one of the first things that we can do is to maybe shop our own wardrobe. So pull everything out of your wardrobe and just put things back in there that you love, that you really, really like, and it's a great way to find things that were maybe missing. Get everything out and have a real rummage and see what you've got. If you still feel like you want to buy something new or that you want to have something new, then maybe shop a friend's wardrobe. So go around and see if there's anything that you can borrow. Or if not, then buying secondhand is a great choice as well. And if you go into more of a kind of posh event, maybe a black tie event, then maybe look at renting an outfit as well. There's a lot more options around renting as well. And all of those options should save you money at this time of year, which is all what we want. We've also got this handy carbon calculator. So this is to have a look at if you put your outfit in that you're planning to buy, then you can see how much you could save if you bought that second hand, or if you didn't buy it at all, if you borrowed it, see how much water you could save and see how much carbon you could save as well. So it makes you feel good. And then a top tip as well is if you don't buy the outfit, then maybe put the money that you were going to buy for it in a savings account, and then you can see the carbon, the water, and the money that you were going to save from not buying that outfit, which is a great feeling. And then just to highlight the importance of only buying things that will last and that you'll wear again and again. So every year between 80 and 100 billion garments of clothing are produced globally, but every second the equivalent of a rubbish truckload of clothes is burnt or buried in landfill. And this is a real problem because over half the clothes that we produce today are made with plastic materials. So it's estimated around 65% of plastic materials. So that's nylon, polyester, acrylic. And so with those, you really want to avoid putting them into landfill because the plastic clothing can take years and years to break down, sometimes up to hundreds of years. Then it can also cause the microplastics to come away and break down, and then they get into our riverways and oceans. And even if we are buying things with natural materials, then when that breaks down in landfill, that can produce greenhouse methane, which is a powerful greenhouse gas. So what positive steps can we take when it comes to our wardrobe? A great way to save money and make sure you buy the right stuff this year is to use this simple and handy before you buy checklist, which we will pop into the chat. It will hopefully help you to keep on track. It's really, really simple. It really just asks you, will your extra stuff make your celebrations better this year, and will you use it more than a handful of times? And if the answer to any of those is no, then you can save yourself time and money by not buying it. But if you still want to buy it, then you can maybe ask yourself, could I buy it second hand, or could I borrow it or swap it with someone? So buying it with a lower impact. And as I say, we'll pop that into the chat. Another big part of what we do at celebrations is to and throughout the year is to give gifts. And this is one actually that one of our most popular steps is around how to give more sustainably. So we know that this one is really close to your hearts. When we see this stat that 50% of people receive a gift each year that they don't want or can't use, I'm sure that you can think of one that you've received, and I'm sure that you might not know, but I'm sure that looking at this stat, you've probably given a gift as well that somebody else couldn't use. So how can we avoid that? We again have created a handy checklist. So each time you buy a present for someone, just maybe look through this checklist and ask yourself, ask someone what they want before buying a gift. And this can seem like a bit of a cop out, and it might seem a bit boring, but actually you can still be thoughtful if they give you a list of options, or you could choose the color. So you might be able to put a bit of a surprise on it, but actually they'll be getting the thing that they wanted. It is always great to ask. If you don't want to ask, then you can always put a gift receipt in so that they can exchange it if they don't need it. Even if you do ask, sometimes we're guessing at sizes, or when they try it on, it doesn't fit, or whatever it is. So putting a gift receipt in is really helpful. It's really easy at this time of year to be tempted by offers. So 3 for 2, 2 for 1. It's really attractive, and there's a lot around, and it does make us feel like we're saving money. But trying to stick to a list and not feeling like you need to buy two gifts when one will do. We all of us have looked at the gifts and gone, oh, should I get something else? But maybe if you feel like you need an extra present, maybe doing something homemade like Christmas biscuits or potting a plant might be a nice little extra gift. And then thinking how often and for how long the person will use the gift. So if it's more of a novelty gift that they will use once or twice, then maybe it might be time for a rethink of that gift. Looking at experiences, I think people more and more are giving experiences. So that can be anything like cinema tickets for an awkward teenager, or a pottery making class to do with a friend. So there's lots and lots of different ideas out there. And finally, with lots of pre-loved sites and marketplaces, when you do know what you want to get um, for somebody, it is always worth taking a look at secondhand sites first. Quite often, there's people still with the gifts with the tag on. When you see that stat that 50% of people receive a gift each year, they've got to go somewhere. So a lot of them are being resold on these sites. And so I know I have managed to find full Lego sets still that are still sealed, on secondhand sites. So it's really, really worth looking at those as well. And Secret Santa is also a good way for people to get less presents and save money. A lot of people do it just with the adults in the family around Christmas time. And apparently, I haven't fact checked this, but I've been told that the royal family do a Secret Santa each year with a £20 limit. So if it's good enough for them, it might be good enough for us. Although in your office, if you do Secret Santa, and it usually ends up with lots of jokey novelty presents that probably go in the bin or end up in the charity shop, then it might be good to try something a bit different, like a Christmas quiz where the winner gets money to give to their favourite charity or something like that. And we just wanted to do a quick poll here to say, have you ever bought second-hand presents? So it'd be just great to understand how big this kind of market is in terms of whether people have bought them. Emily, have you ever bought a second-hand present?
I have, yes, and I'm a fan of World of Books, who sell a lot of secondhand books, and even places like Amazon. Sometimes you can see they have a pre-loved version, and quite often, the quality doesn't look secondhand; it looks new anyway. So I'm a massive fan of that. And we've got 57% have said that they have bought secondhand presents before.
Brilliant. That's a huge amount. That's great to know. Thank you very much, everyone, for sharing that. And do you think you'll buy a second-hand present this year? So even if you haven't bought one before, even if you have, what do you think? It'd be great to know. I've already bought. We went to a bike shop, and my son chose a bike, and I came straight out and had a look on the marketplace selling sites. I found exactly the same bike just in my local area, and it looks brand new. So, and I got his granddad to like scrub a bit of rust off it as well with his magic toolkit. So it looks brand new now, but it was a fraction of the price of the real one. So
we've got most people are saying that they either will buy a present or they will think about it. So that's excellent.
Brilliant. That's excellent. Good to hear. So after we bought the gift, we've also got quite often to wrap it. So we need to find something to wrap it in. This is a stat that is actually just from the UK, which it blew my mind before. I knew it was just a UK stat when I thought it was worldwide. But if you put all of the wrapping paper that we use each year out lengthways, then it would reach to the moon. It's just a crazy, crazy stat. And it creates a lot of waste, and a lot of it isn't recyclable. And even if it is recyclable, quite often it's not recycled because we have to do things like take the tape off, which which a lot of us don't want to be standing there and doing. So how do we reduce our impact here? There's lots more information on our step, which we'll pop into the chat. So opting for recyclable as a general rule can really help recyclable wrapping. That means kind of nothing glittery or shiny, and as a general rule, if you scrunch it up and it goes out flat pretty quickly, then it's probably not recyclable. but most places now you'll be able to see if it's recyclable or not, or reusable. So using a box or a bag where we can. But the best thing is if you can use things that already exist, so materials that already exist. We've got some birthday gift bags amongst my friends that have been doing the rounds for years and years. So because they're just used for a minute, you put them in a drawer for the rest of the time, bring them out, give the gift, go into someone else's drawer. So yeah, they're still like brand new. So some ideas on wrapping, maybe some old newspaper, wrapping paper that's already been used, or old brown paper, or cloth as well. My kids laugh at me at just the different things that I'll invent. Just a cloth with a bobble tied around it. Sometimes not a cloth, but a piece of cloth. A nice one. And you can keep a collection of kind of old ribbons to smarten up your wrapping if you wanted to. If you receive Christmas cards each year, then at the end you can cut those up and use them for gift tags next year as well. That's another top tip. And I think Emily, you've got a top tip on tape as well, haven't you?
I have, and someone's actually just put this in the chat as well, but I have craft wrapping paper, so it's still patterned and looks like Christmas paper, but I have craft tape as well, so then I don't need to sit and pick off all the sellotape at Christmas because it can be recycled along with the paper. So I've put an example in the chat if anyone's interested.
Brilliant. Thank you. And moving on to one of the questions that we've been asked a lot around Christmas, which we're calling the big tree debate, but it's around whether we should get a real or a fake tree at Christmas. So we thought we'd just take a look at this for you, and this is all from a carbon perspective. So a real tree has a carbon footprint anywhere between 4 and 12 kilograms of carbon. And the key elements of the carbon footprint of the real tree are the growing, so where the tree sucks carbon out of the atmosphere, but also requires kind of fertilizer, farming and transport. And then the disposal of it, with that being the biggest swing factor in that kind of 4 to 12. An artificial tree can be anywhere between 22 and 40 kilograms, and that really depends on the size and where it comes from. Most of them come from China. So for year one, a real tree is lower carbon, but if you're going to keep your tree for kind of 6+ years, then it becomes more balanced. And then over 10 years, it's in favour of the fake tree from a carbon perspective. But no matter which way you're going to go, here's a checklist of ways that you can reduce your impact, whether you're buying real or fake. So in terms of distance, if you're buying real, buy from sustainable forests as close as possible. Those forests will be well managed and new trees will be planted. So and plus less transportation to where you're going to buy if you buy it locally. If you're buying a fake one, then have a look to find one manufactured as locally as possible. As I said, most come from China, and you might find it quite hard to find out where they have been produced. But yeah, best of luck. And yeah, a bit of research might be required on that one. Material, so if you're buying a real tree, organic or low chemical, which is obviously better for nature and has lower emissions. And if you're buying fake, in terms of material, recycled content will really reduce the greenhouse gas emissions of the materials. And then in terms of size, whether you're buying real or fake, it is smaller the better. So obviously if it's real, then it's less transportation. If it's fake, then less materials, and also less transportation as well. And then in terms of aftercare, so if you're buying real, this, as I mentioned before, this is the real swing factor. Composting it or wood chipping it, either yourself or asking a local authority to do that. And also, I think some charities also take trees and do that on your behalf as well. But better still, if you can buy it potted, so it gets replanted as well. I think there's a lot of that available. It depends which area you're in, obviously, but having a look at that. And then if with a fake tree as well, just planning your storage. So if you know you're going artificial, think about how many years you want to keep that for, and make sure that there is a place where it will be preserved for as long as possible during the months that you're not using it. Okay. And then just to say on the tree debate, every piece of carbon that we can cut back on counts. But if you are thinking about being sustainable at Christmas, the tree debate might not be the place to focus all of your energy. And I just wanted to put it into perspective. So a real tree is about the same carbon footprint as a new pair of socks, which is one of the least welcome Christmas presents that we get. And also, instead of upgrading your iPhone this year, you could have a real Christmas tree for the next 14 years. And also, if you're taking a short haul flight this year as well, then you could plant a whole forest of 87 trees instead of taking that short haul flight. So that was just really to help us put things in perspective, that we shouldn't get too hung up on it, but it's all about making whichever choice we make, making it as sustainable as possible. Okay, onto our final area, which is all about food, which is, as I said, visible at any celebrations that we have. And food is around a quarter of our carbon footprint, our total carbon footprints. And we see a large increase at events, throughout the world whenever we are celebrating. So some ideas to be able to reduce our footprint here is buying local. So seasonal produce is one of our favourites to take a chunk out of your food footprint, as it's got a lower impact, it's travelled less, and it will support your local community as well. If you want to do even more, then try an organic. So organic farming is much better for nature and wildlife, with organic farms having 50% more biodiversity. There is often a price difference, so maybe go for the item with the least price difference, if you wanted to, or if you can go somewhere where the produce isn't kind of bagged up, then you can just buy exactly what you need, which can also help to reduce the price. Another great way to reduce our impact when we're buying food is to reduce the amount of meat and dairy you serve. So there are plenty of ways you can do this with some great plant-based options and alternatives. So just maybe looking at switching things out. I know Bosch do some great ideas, Bosch recipes. If you have heard of them, maybe give them a Google. They do some great recipes at this time of year to be able to put some veggies on your plate. And palm oil is everywhere because it's versatile, it's cheap, it's easy to get, and it's really efficient. But it's in a lot of things that we buy, especially on our supermarket shelves. The issue with palm oil is that it's causing deforestation, which accounts for around 15% of all greenhouse gases. So virgin forests are replaced with the palm oil, with the palm tree where the oil comes from, which is incredibly fast to grow. It's really, really efficient when it's being planted for production. However, because of this, mass land areas are losing native plants and species, including orangutans, rhinos, tigers, and many others are being pushed down and out in terms of extinction in favour of growing these like kind of long lines of trees. It can be, though, palm oil can be grown sustainably without felling forestry. So look out for sustainable palm oil or palm oil free products. And, maybe just look at switching just one item at a time. So it can feel a bit overwhelming if you go, oh my gosh, there's so much for palm oil and I don't know where to start. But just choose one item and switch that out and get into the habit of buying that item. And then you can move on to others as you find other alternatives. And then there is a lot of food at celebrations, but there's also a lot of food waste as well. So at Christmas, 2 million turkeys that are still edible are thrown away. And it's not just turkeys. There's 5 million Christmas puddings and 74 million mince pies get disposed of while they're still edible, which causes almost 270,000 tons of food waste. So there is a lot that is being wasted every year. And a quarter of food waste is because we make too much. So cutting back on food waste at this time of year is a really good way to make your festivities greener, and obviously reduce the amount that we're wasting in terms of our wallets as well. So after events, many people have a lot of food left over, but none of it needs to be wasted. So you can make a meal with your leftovers, and we've got a step there with some recipes in. You can share unused food with friends, with food banks, or there's lots of apps out there as well. So there's ones like Olio or Too Good to Go. You pop in the chat if there's any local to you that you wanted to share. But you can also compost any food waste that can't be shared, like peelings, rather than putting them in the bin, because again, when we put them in the bin and they go to landfill, it produces methane again, which is a really when it breaks down, which is a powerful greenhouse gas. We've got a step which hopefully we've put into the chat in terms of ways that we can cut down our food waste. But the best way is kind of plan ahead, keep a diary of any food that you're throwing out over the week, and certainly anything that you're throwing out regularly. And then have a look at how you could avoid that food waste. So whether it is, making smaller portions, whether it's writing a list, so we're not throwing out the same things every week and just sticking to the list rather than buying things that we fancy in the supermarket. But it can also include how you would make sure you avoid it. So whether it's putting more things in the freezer, making room in the freezer so that you can do it, just having that plan. And then the other top tip is organising your fridge and cupboards at this time of year so that the older food is always at the front. It is a bit of a time-consuming task, but once it's done, it's definitely worth it. And also letting the people that you're living with know what you're doing as well, because it helps to inspire them, but also helps to keep you on track as well. So we have come to the end of our sustainable celebrations, and thank you all so much for being with us today. But we thought we'd end with us all taking collective action together. So hopefully you've seen something in the chat that's inspired you, or that you've thought, I'm going to give that a try. Here's some options here that you can either do on your phone with a QR code, or Emily will pop into the chat for you. But it'd be great to see us all taking a step over the next minute. I've got a little star that's going to go round over the next minute that will eventually, it's a little cute star, so it's worth the wait while you all choose one. But Emily, have you got anything that you're planning to switch this year or change?
I have a few things that we've done this year. I actually bought from Vinted for the first time a Christmas jumper for my son as he grows out of his far too quickly, which was excellent. And we have a sustainable Christmas tree that we actually rent, and then they collect again after Christmas. So it comes in a pot, and then they replant it again afterwards, which is amazing. And what about you?
It's a great idea. I'm concentrating more on food this year, so I think I've got a bit of a win where I have asked that we don't just have so normally we've got a couple of people who are vegetarian, a couple of people who are meat eaters, so normally we'll have separate dishes, but I've said, why don't we just things like stuffing, can we just make it so it's all vegetarian, so that everybody's eating the vegetarian option and we're not having two different options. And also, for some reason, we make sprouts with bacon in it, so I've requested we do that with chestnuts this year, so that we can have some as well, some vegetarian people. So yeah, so that's my win this year.
Excellent.
Right, we have come to the end. Thank you all so much for joining us. I hope that's been helpful in terms of getting ready for your celebrations this year, and have a great festive period. Thank you, everyone.